Hi everyone, Claire Jones from Clarifications Coaching. I offer systemized business solutions to arts organizations and small business owners so that they can grow and scale their businesses without burning out. So I'm here today doing my weekly live, and I thought I would follow up on the live that I did last week. Last week I went over the 1 Minute Manager, and there's a whole series of books by Kenneth Blanchard under that umbrella of 1 Minute Managers. And last time I went over his first one, the original one, the OP, the OG. And so I didn't get around to talking about the second book that I have on hand of his called The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. And I just wanted to check in about that one today, because it's super important when you are working with others to basically not micromanage them. So you're managing them, but you're not micromanaging them. And the whole idea of the monkey is we all have these monkeys on our backs. They all are tasks that we're responsible for, or problems that we're responsible for, decisions that we're responsible for. And a lot of people like to either A, put their monkeys on someone else's back so that they are no longer responsible for them, or pick up monkeys off of other people's backs. And that's what I call micromanaging, is when you pick up other people's monkeys without really needing to. And that basically takes the initiative away from people. And you are caring and feeding for their monkeys, and it's not actually rescuing them. You're just doing things that they could be doing themselves. And every time you take a monkey away from a person, but you're basically saying, you are not capable of handling this problem, so I better take care of it myself. And if you just sit back and think about that message that you're sending, it's condescending. It's micromanaging, and a lot of people don't like being talked to that way. Even if the message is implicit, not really direct, you're still telling them that they're not capable and that you better handle it. And the more you take care of things for people, the more dependent they become on you. And there's a classic overfunctioner and underfunctioner dynamic that can happen between people in any social situation, whether it's in intimate relationships, whether it's in family relationships, whether it's in work relationships. There can be a classic dynamic of an underfunctioner and an overfunctioner. And the overfunctioner is basically taking all of the underfunctioner's monkeys and telling them, you're not capable of handling your monkeys, so I'm going to handle them all and function for you, essentially. And as a manager, you are in charge of building their self-esteem and confidence, but you are actually eroding that when you take control of their monkeys. So Kenneth Blanchard kind of goes over this in his book of how can you say, identify the monkeys first and foremost, B, identify who they actually belong to, and C, put up personal boundaries so that you don't take other people's monkeys, essentially. And as a manager, to the extent that you can get people to care for and feed their own monkeys, they are really managing the work themselves. And so this frees up your discretionary time to do planning, coordinating, innovating, staffing, and other key managerial tasks that will keep your unit, keep your business, keep your company well functioning into the future. And so your job as a manager, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's within a family, whether it's within a personal relationship, your job within that is to free up your discretionary time so that you have more time to do the things you love, A. B, you have more time to do big picture thinking. C, you are believing in the other person's capabilities, other people's competence, other people's efficiency, effectiveness, essentially, and not taking on their monkeys. So I see this happening with a lot of parent relationships. It's well, my kids don't do the chores, so I'm the only one that has to do them. And the more your kids see you doing their chores, the less likely they're going to actually do them. And I've seen this in intimate relationships too, women handling all of the grocery shopping, handling all of the laundry, handling all of the dishes, stuff like that. And the more they handle that stuff, the less the man or the other person in the relationship, I'm not going to be heteronormative here, is going to take ownership over it. And so the dialogue that you need to have between these people must not end until all monkeys have descriptions. What are the next moves specified? And the dialogue must not end until the appropriate next moves have been identified and specified. So what are the next moves for the monkeys? Where do they need to go? What's the next step? And you need to have it assigned to a person. So what's the monkey's next steps and who are they assigned to? And all monkeys should be owned and handled at the lowest organizational level consistent with their welfare. Let me go into that for a little bit. So theoretically, there's a hierarchy of skill sets within a workplace, within a family, within a social group, and the monkeys should be assigned to whoever is at the lowest rung of skill set capability, but still has the capability to handle that monkey. So the organizational level consistent with their welfare. So let's go back to the family example with kids and chores. So if you are assigning a chore and you know that your 2-year-old is capable of picking up things off of the floor, they should be assigned that monkey, not you, because you are more capable of doing more complex tasks like cleaning the glass globes on the overhead lights. That is a task that is beyond the capability of a 2-year-old. And so you have this hierarchical structure of the task's complexity, essentially. And so the task should be handled by whoever has that lowest capability for that task. And so this is how you can get younger kids contributing to chores, is find out what the simplest chores are and assign them to the people who have that basic capability so that other people with higher capabilities can attend to the more complex tasks. Is that tracking with you all? So if we go to an organizational context, a workplace context, consider who has the lowest level of capability and the highest level of capability. And the more complex tasks should go to the higher capability people, and the lower complexity tasks should go to the lower capability people. And so this can be really seen in nonprofit organizations, for example, because they depend a lot on volunteer efforts. And so if you have a routine task that a volunteer is capable of doing that is below the skill set of, say, an executive of the organization, that task should go to the volunteer, not the executive. And so how do you set up your task prioritizing, your task hierarchy, in a way that the person who has the highest capability is not doing the lowest capability tasks? Because that's basically wasting their time. And that restricts their time to then spend on the higher complexity tasks. So the monkey should be assigned to an owner at the lowest organizational level consistent with their welfare. Now, you shouldn't assign a task to someone who's not capable of doing the task. That means the welfare of the monkey. So I hope that tracks with you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. I think I tried to explain that. And 3, before you end the conversation, there should be an insurance policy. So make sure that the risk is covered. Every monkey leaving your presence on the back of other people must be covered by insurance policies. So what happens if things go wrong? What is the risk level and what is in place to counteract that risk level, essentially? So if you are assigning your 2-year-old the task of picking things up off the floor, then make sure that there's an insurance policy in place in case things go wrong. Maybe you want to make sure that they're doing it on the bottom floor of the house instead of the upper floor of the house, because if you're doing it on the upper floor of the house, there's risk of them falling down the stairs while they're doing this task. So how can you put in place these insurance policies to make sure that the risk of the task is lowered or there are troubleshooting plans in place? And then 4, you need to make sure that there's monkey feeding and checkup appointments. So there should be a time and a place for follow-up. and that should be specified. So you should, before leaving this conversation, specify a time and place to follow up about the monkey's welfare, follow up about the monkey's process. And proper follow-up means healthier monkeys. So every monkey should have a checkup appointment, essentially. And so this is getting into metaphors here. But again, if we're talking about assigning a volunteer a routine task, for example, if they are assigned to stuff envelopes, you know, they need to be checked up with to see that monkey of stuffing envelopes is going along well. You know, maybe they have been not including a certain page in the envelope. And so if you check up regularly, you can catch that and make sure that the health of that monkey task is pivoted. And so this is kind of going back to my video last week when I was talking about redirects. So you need to make sure that if there is something going on that's not successful in the monkey's maintenance, that you do a quick and specific redirect to make sure that not 100 envelopes end up missing this one page, but it's only 10. So that's kind of how you can schedule a checkup or a follow-up appointment with monkeys and see how they're doing. And so the purpose of these monkey management rules is to help ensure that the right things get done in the right way at the right time by the right people. And so this frees up time across the board by intentionally delegating tasks and intentionally delegating monkeys. So always ask yourself, why are we doing this? And if there's no viable answer, shoot the monkey, get rid of the monkey. Why is the monkey there? And so you won't be doing things efficiently that weren't supposed to be done in the first place, you know? So people take better care of things that they own instead of things that they don't. And so that's the other importance of having assignment over monkeys and having specific intentional assignment over monkeys. And like I said before, all monkeys should be handled at the lowest organizational level, consistent with their welfare. So keeping the monkeys at this lowest possible level is not, as some view it, buck passing or an abdication of responsibility, but there are powerful, legitimate reasons for doing so. They have the lowest organizational rungs, have more collective time and energy, and in many cases, more knowledge about handling monkeys. So I don't remember who said this, but I read this a while ago about if you are, I think it was Starbucks, Howard Behar was one of the founders of Starbucks. And he was saying that if you are in charge of buying brooms for all of the Starbucks locations, you are the purchasing manager, and you've been told that everyone needs new brooms to clean up their storerooms, clean up their stores, stuff like that. Who is best in a position to decide what kind of brooms to get? The people who are using the brooms. So they have more knowledge about what the broom features need to be than, say, the managing purchase person who works in corporate and never actually sees how the brooms are being used. So in many cases, they have more knowledge about handling those monkeys than the top executives do, or the top performers do, or the top hierarchical positions do. And so there's many managers that think they can outperform their entire staff, but they're suffering from delusions of adequacy. So, and that basically burns them out in the process, because then they think that they need to do everything themselves. And it's kind of an ego trip. I've mentioned this before, but when you become a bottleneck for your organization because you insist on doing everything yourself, it is not scalable. It is not sustainable. You are not actually going to grow. In order to grow, you need to delegate, because they're going to have more knowledge on the ground than you do in your office. And they have more time and energy and, in many cases, knowledge than you do in being in the office. And so you need to focus on having more discretionary time for planning, managing, planning for the future, stuff like that, troubleshooting when things do go wrong. But it's a bad case when managers think that they need to do everything themselves. And so another benefit of handling at the lowest rung possible is that they are more bought in. They have more ownership, they have more agency, they have more autonomy, and that increases self-esteem levels. That increases self-confidence levels, and that increases more engagement, more motivation. When they have control over their tasks, and when they have agency, when they have autonomy, and when they feel like they are a valuable part in the organization, and they have ownership over these monkeys, they're going to perform better. They're going to put in better effort. They're going to be more committed to their monkeys than other people's monkeys, essentially. And so you actually get better work out of people when you delegate to them and not micromanage them. It's a funny mindset shift for a lot of managers to realize that in order to get better work, they need to become more hands-off with their employees. Like, sure, they need to make sure that the employees know what they're doing, but you don't need to continually check up on these employees. I mean, you need to have these follow-up and check-up appointments, but you don't need to, every step of the way, make sure that they're doing it correctly, unless you're training them. And so this keeps people's monkeys out of your responsibility as well. And that preserves your discretionary time. More time to go on vacation, more time to spend with your friends, more time to actually work on the things you want to work on. So, for example, I worked with a dog walking company once, and I was their director of business development, and I was helping them basically scale because they had gotten to the point where the founder basically, he made the business 7 years prior because he loved working with dogs. He loved walking dogs, he loved training dogs, and so he thought, why not have my services for hire? And he became so successful in this endeavor that he just kept having to hire more and more people to help pick up the load of the dog walking. But at heart, he was a dog trainer. That's what he wanted to do. That's what he wanted to spend his time on. He wasn't a businessman, but he was trying to fill this role of what he thought a founder or a CEO should be. And so it was taking him months to learn these basic business procedures and basic business systems when really all he wanted to do was train dogs. And so if you are building a business on your zone of genius, training dogs, for example, is your zone of genius, it's what you love doing, then you need to delegate all the other tasks to other people so that you can focus on your zone of genius. Because you're going to continually hit your head against a wall if you don't really like financial spreadsheets, if you don't really like doing cash flow projections and managing people and all that stuff that is required by business owners. And that's fine. You're not inadequate because you can't or don't want to do those things. That's just not your zone of genius, and that doesn't mean you are less than. It doesn't mean that you are lacking. It doesn't mean that you are just a shit individual because you don't want to learn how to use QuickBooks. That's not a character flaw at the end of the day. It's just a preference. And if you continue trying to force yourself to do those things that you just don't like doing, you're going to be miserable. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be burnt out. And you're not actually going to enjoy this business that you built because you enjoy it. So in that instance, you need to hire a CEO. You need to hire someone to handle those things for you so that you can focus on your zone of genius, the things that you want to focus on. For example, I was trying to get him to do a cash flow spreadsheet, a simple financial reporting projection to see how your income and your expenses happen month to month so that you have a good plan of where your cash balance is going to be for the next 12 months. And this really helps with planning ahead for big expenses or planning ahead for slow seasons, just planning ahead in general. And it took him 9 months to make this spreadsheet, and it just blew my mind because it took him 2 months to learn how to use Excel in the first place. 2, it took him 2 months to learn how to use QuickBooks in the second place because his finance officer was basically in charge of all of that stuff. And instead of sitting down with his finance officer or sitting down with me to work through it together, he insisted on learning it all himself because he was under this assumption that he had to know this stuff as a business owner. And sure, you need to be able to like read reports and have a working knowledge of what's going on in your business financially. But these are the kinds of things that you can easily delegate because those aren't your zone of genius. You are actually slowing the business down. You are becoming a bottleneck. You are becoming an obstacle for your own business if you insist on continuing down these paths. So keep those monkeys out of your time, essentially, because you built a business around something that you love. You built a business around a passion of yours, around a zone of genius. And if you're not actually enjoying your business because you're not spending time on your zone of genius, then why are you in business? So how can you delegate the tasks that you don't like doing so that you can spend more time doing the things you love and being more productive, being more efficient, being more effective? Because the right people are doing the right things in the right way at the right time. So how can you delegate? I think it was Bill Gates, I think I want to say, said that he hired people that were smarter than him because they told him what to do instead of him telling them what to do. Because if you have the right people in the right roles, then your business is going to be better, because your personal limitations are going to constantly limit the growth of the company unless you have other people working in their zones of geniuses alongside with you. And so the best way to develop responsibility within people is to give them responsibility. How can they be trustworthy if you don't give them trust, or if they don't trust themselves to be capable of doing the things that they are given responsibility over? So great discipline is needed to overcome the apparent paradox in management. Sometimes when you insist on the very best in people's work, you may encounter resistance because doing their very best often requires hard work. So if you permit your people, on the other hand, to be less than their best, sometimes they don't actively resist. So it sometimes seems that they would rather do less than their best. But the best way to develop this is to actually give them responsibility, actually push them to do their best. And it gives you a chance to take a holiday from the challenges of management in a way where sometimes a lot of managers enjoy doing the tasks of their subordinates because they already know how to do that stuff. It's easy, it's routine, it's not challenging to them. And so you need to kind of step away from that ego trip, because you need to consistently push yourself to be your best, as well as consistently push your people to be their best. And so giving people your authority and freedom benefits both you and them ultimately. The benefit is you get discretionary time, more freedom to do what you want, work on your zone of genius, be actually passionate and be happy in the things that you're doing. And the more freedom that they have, the less time and energy that is required of you, and the more freedom that they have, the more they enjoy the benefits of self-management, like more satisfaction, more energy, higher morale, stuff like that. And so that's kind of what I wanted to go over today. I'm checking my notes to see if there's anything else. But yeah, self-management it's a lot better than boss management. Everyone likes to be managed by themselves, not managed by their bosses. People hate being micromanaged. I know that from experience. You probably know that from experience. So don't take other people's monkeys, essentially. Moral of the story being. So yeah, that's about it. That's what I have for today. So I love you all. Take care and have a good one. Bye.